Okay, so I'm live at the moment, and we're going to be going over the solution to the problem. I'm going to go over that now. So before we start, we're just going to make sure that everyone is ready uh, with their stuff. What you'd need is you need to have your text editor open and ready. So I'm gonna just go there now. Okay, so I'll give everyone a few minutes, and yeah, just give everyone. Can be vocal in the chat whilst we are continuing. Okay. I'm just doing a test on my side. So I'll give everyone a few minutes, and yeah, just give okay. So let's continue. Let me just make sure everyone is okay. Okay. Can be vocal in the chat whilst we are continuing. Okay, so let's start. We should be ready to start. So this is the page that we're trying to recreate, right? So this is what obviously we're going to be working towards. So firstly, we have to get the HTML file so we can complete this task. And the HTML file, the link to my personal guest that I've created, was given out on the WhatsApp group chat, but you can use the shortened link here that I've created. So https /goo.gl/1h_MXCP, and so that's a shortened link. And if you go and paste that in, you should be taken. It didn't time out, but if it did, okay, so it didn't time out. So we're back here. So if you post it in, you will get to the post here for the guest. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this code, right? Very simply copy it, copy, and we're going to head on over to our text editor. So I'm using Sublime Text 3, as you can see, but you feel free to use any text editor you want. So I think that you guys have brackets installed, but if you don't have Sublime Text, it's not a chain smash. It actually will work on Notepad. This is just a text editor that uses some code syntax highlighting, etc. So it's quite more advanced than a Notepad, but it's not stopping you from using any. It's not stopping you from using any text editor. So let's go ahead and paste this in. So as you'll see, we pasted it in, and at the moment there's no syntax highlighting because the text editor doesn't know what type of file this is. So we're going to go ahead and say file and save. And we're going to go on the desktop here. Choose your desktop, and let's call it simple blog. Simple blog.html. .html will allow us to know an HTML file. So as you can see, the syntax has been highlighted and colored, color coordinated. Now, and you see here it's appeared on our desktop. So let's go ahead and view this. So we say open with Google Chrome, and you can see that this is the HTML page that we've been given. So there is no style, simple HTML, and we're going to turn this into this. Okay, a nice presentable front-end blog using some basic CSS styling. Okay, the reason this task was given is so that you have some some ability to be able to customize your demo profile. So if you go on to KTP Solutions, .co.za/demo profile, right? If you go into demo profile, you'll see that this is my profile, right? The demo one. And this is the profile that we're going to be customizing. And so it'll help you tremendously if you are able to convert this into this. The reason that is because all websites, every single website has a basic HTML like this. The only thing that makes it look different or makes it look nice is CSS. So a good way of having a look at this would be going over to a place called CSS Zen Garden, right? CSS Zen Garden. So if we enter CSS Zen Garden, it's the first link. So I'll go back. It's the first link. It's www.csszengarden.com. Click on it, and this will bring you to a CSS Zen Garden's homepage. Now, what CSS Zen Garden is, it's a demonstration of the power of CSS. So what they have is a similar thing to what our challenge was. Is given HTML, which you cannot change, which looks like this. Make it look nice. So give it any look you want to make it something like this. So this was my creation. I created this simple blog. It wasn't a lot of HTML, so it was simple for you to style. But in Zen Garden, they have a whole lot of HTML, and what they say is that what they demand is that you do not change the HTML file. So you can download the HTML file there and create your own CSS styling. And many people have done it. So this is the home page, as you can see. Then if we choose someone else's styling like this one here by Dan Moore, he's created the exact same HTML. So the HTML has not changed, but he's styled it differently. So all of the stuff that you see here is his own styling. So there is no addition to that HTML file. If you go back and choose one of my personal favorites, a robot named Jimmy, this is also the exact same HTML. It's just the CSS that's different. Okay. As you can see, you can get a beautiful design just using CSS. So CSS is very powerful. And some of these do have a little bit of JavaScript in them. So like a robot named Jim, obviously the rotation at the back is probably using some JavaScript, but at the end of the day, it's not a major part, and the HTML still is the core of the page. Head on over to CSS Zen Garden and see if you'd like to submit a design or view other designs or have a look at some CSS resources. It's a good page. It's a good page, definitely. Okay, so back to our little assignment. So we're going to come into this. Okay, so it's not a big task, but let's break it down. So we'd like to get this nice border thing going on here first, right? So let's try and make that happen and leave everything else the same. So at the end, we want all these text to be within a border like this at the center of the page, right? So this here, if we go back here and we look, we see that the main div, so the div called with an ID called main div, encompasses everything besides the footer and the H1, which is the head, right? So it's everything besides this and this. Right here, from this all the way up till there, all of that is main div, right? So we want to move this inside of that little border. So before we can do that, or actually in order to do that rather, we need to add a little link tag to link to our style sheet. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of CSS best practices. So all of our CSS is going to be inside a folder called CSS, and we're going to call the CSS style, right? So style.css, quite simple. And we're just going to save this HTML file, and that is going to link rather our CSS file to our HTML file. So obviously this doesn't exist. This folder doesn't exist, and this CSS file does not exist. So this is called error-driven development. where we are inducing an error, and now we are fixing it so that it works. So let's head on over to your, just create a new file with your text editor, and say save as, sorry, save as, and you can go to the desktop. It should be fine, and you can call it style.css. Okay, save. And so if you minimize this, we'll see on our desktop we should have a simple blogger HTML and CSS dot style. I mean style.css, beg your pardon. So what we need to do is it's a bit, let's put it in a folder. Let's get a folder called my simple blog, right? Simple blog, and let's just drag these two files in there. So we're working from one file. Double click. So we have the simple blogger HTML and style.css. But remember that it's best practice to put all CSS files inside a folder called CSS. So let's create a subfolder within my simple blog called CSS and place in our style.css inside it. Okay, so when we open my simple blog folder, we see that simple blogger HTML is in fact our HTML code and CSS is the styling. Okay, but coming back to best practices, simpleblog.html isn't really a best practice name for the home page of our HTML. What it should be named as, let me just close these. They're not being found in Sublime Text because we moved the location. So what simpleblog.html should be named is, we rename it, index.html. This is because when we are uploading our page to the internet or to our file transfer program using a file transfer program like FireFTP, we're going to be uploading this entire folder into whichever directory on our server that we'd like. So let me give you a demonstration. So when I go to www.kgpsolutions.co.za/demo profile, demo profile is not a file. Demo profile, portfolio, sorry, I keep saying profile. Demo portfolio is actually a directory or folder, and inside that folder we have the styling, the JavaScript, and also index.html. So when we say KGP Solutions.co.za/demo portfolio and press enter, it's actually displaying index.html. So if I type here www.kgpsolutions.co.za/demo portfolio/html.index.html and I press enter, you'd see that nothing would happen because this is the main page. So by saying index.html, it allows us to have a direct in the URL bar to go straight to the directory. Okay, so that's best practice as well. So now we have the CSS up in the CSS folder, and we have the index.html inside the named as rather than .html. Now that we have everything done, it's time for styling. So let's test first that our style is actually working. So I'm gonna head on over to the CSS folder. I'm gonna go to style.css, right click, open with, choose another app, and find your text editor here. So you can use Notepad, you can use WordPad, but I'm gonna use Sublime Text. Okay, so once you have it open, what we wanna do is just wanna test that this is working. So this is what our page is at the moment, and if we look for a simple blog, so let's go ahead here and open up the HTML in Sublime Text, index.html, open with, choose another app, scroll down, Sublime Text. Okay, so once we have this opened, let me just close that. So once we have the HTML opened, let's look for what this is, right? So if you read this HTML, which I highly advise you to, the commenting is not heavy, but it explains quite well what it is. So the simple blog front end is actually an H1, right? So if we go into the style sheet and we say Let's style the H1 and make the text color. Let's make the text color red. This is just to test whether our style sheet is actually linked to our HTML. So let's refresh. Oh, you see, your file was not found. It may be moved or deleted. Now, this is a common mistake most people make when they're moving files around and renaming files, is that they leave an HTML file in the browser, make changes and refresh. And this error happens, and most people think that they made a mistake in HTML or CSS or something not linking, but it's actually a bit more simpler than that. If you look at the directory bar here, it's looking for simple block.html, but we renamed that to index.html. So that's the first mistake. The second mistake is it's looking for an HTML file within the desktop directory, but we know that we created a folder called mysimple blog. So to solve this, it's not that complicated. Close this, head on back to your folder, right click on your index.html file, open with Google Chrome. See, solved. And as you can see, our CSS file, because we have some, and it is in red. Okay, so for the remainder of this video, now that we have everything set up, I'm going to demonstrate the solution to you, and I'm not necessarily going to explain the different attributes and how they work, etc. If you get stuck at any point and you'd like uh, information on something, head on over to Google and type EN. Okay, press 3 letters, and generally it should come up with the first option called Mozilla Developer Network. Click on it. This is an amazing website. It was developed by Mozilla, and it is basically the, how can I say, the textbook of the web. So anything and everything that you require can be found here. Obviously, there's some nitpicking stuff which you'd have to go out and look further, but this is where you start. This is generally what you do. So if I wanted to search something, if I was confused, I'd type MDN H1. So what is an H1? I prefix my search with MDN. And as you can see, when I searched it, it came up, the first one said H1 to H6 HTML and then MDN. So that's what I'm looking for, because this is the developer network, and it's basically like the docs to the web. Okay, and then I'll have some explanation here. The following code shows the heading level. So H1 is a heading, right? So if we have a read here, so it says the HTML H1 through the H6 elements represents 6 level of section headings. H1 is the highest level highest section level, and H6 is the lowest. So if you come on over here and it shows the examples, we read, they say header 1 all the way to 6, and we see that header 1 means that it's the largest heading, whereas header 6 is the smallest heading. Okay, and you can open it in a CodePen if you have CodePen, which I highly recommend. You get an account on CodePen. Yeah, so this, I just wanted to demonstrate how one would use MDN. So MDN is quite important in developing on the web, and as you go through, you'll learn more and more on what MDN is and how to use it. But for now, to use MDN, type MDN and what you want to know about. So MDN classes, MDN H2, MDN paragraphs, or P, MDN footer. Anything that you see that you don't understand, type MDN, press enter, and you should get a result within no time. Okay, so now to the main event. So I'm going to first, as I said, I'm going to put all of this here, which is included in the main div, inside that nice border that we see here, this nice border. So let's get that going first. So let's go over to Sublime Text, get an over here. Let me take this out because you're not doing that, and we're going to go to the main div because that was the ID given to the main div. Remember, we can't change that, so we have to use their names. So if you head on over here, you'd see that I added an ID to the main div called main div. So to style it, obviously, we have to use main div. So it does have a border, so therefore we are going to have a border. The border goes all around. Let's say it's about 15 pixels, right? We're going to now change the color. Now for the color, I have the color written down because I wrote this web page previously, but the next question that I'm sure you'd ask is, so how would I do it? So that's actually not as complicated. So let's just save this quickly. Not as complicated as it may seem to find these. What you'd do is you'd go over to Chrome, right, and type uh, color picker Chrome tool, right? Color picker Chrome tool. Press enter, and you see here the first one. It depends. Some of them you'd have to look at it. So let's look at color pick eyedrop, right? Let's have a look at this one. And indeed, this would work. So let's add to Chrome. I'll show you how to do it. Add the extension, right? And it's added. So this is what we do now. So let's say I wanted to find out what the RGB is of this border. I click color picker and head on over to about. 1 second, let's have a look at how this works. So I want that color, right? So I click it and it gives me the hexadecimal, or if I don't want the hexadecimal, you can use hexadecimal. You can just go to the point where you want. So click that color, click the drop down tab, and you see here we can copy that directly. Copy. Okay, let's close this. We are done. So we copied it. We're on over here, and I'm going to show you that it's exactly the same. Paste it. So there we go. So RGB 167, 167, 179, 179, 198, 198. So it's that easy to get colors. So I'm sure after I explain that, you can get any color you like, and it works on any web page. So if you want the Facebook blue, or you want the Instagram colors, or you look at a web page and like, hey, that's a nice color. Use color pick eyedrop, I think it's called, the Chrome extension. Get the RGB. You can even use hexadecimal, so it's not necessarily for me to use RGB, but I'm sure if you go MDN border, you'd find out about all these attributes. Okay, so next we need a width for this border. Now, the width of this border, okay, so I'm going to put down the answer and then I'm going to explain it. It's 80%. So let's figure out why. And I'm not going to run this just yet. I'm not gonna refresh this page just yet because I don't want you to see the changes. So if we look at the actual solution, we see that there's a space here and there's a space there. So we see that this div or this container is not taking up the entire web page. It's taking up probably this now. So you'd have to say, okay, let me try 60%, where 20% is empty on this side, 20% is empty on this side. I'm going to go for 80% because you can see that this is not as large as 20%. You could try it. It's about trial and error. So you try 60, and then you see, okay, it's a bit too small. Let me try 80%, which means I'll have 10% here, 10% there. And you play around, and eventually you get to that solution. So I use 80% for the width, right? And now to center this border, I'm just going to put a margin left, auto, and a margin right is auto. That'll center it. Okay, so now if we save this file and I head on over to here where we had it and I refresh, you'll see that indeed we border of the color of our choice with all the main div content inside, which includes all the text and all that stuff. Okay, now we're doing the next phase is let's just the dates to the right format. So if we head on over to simple blog, you see that the dates aren't exactly in the same font, nor are they the same size. So there's quite a bit to do. But let's first investigate what does this post thing mean. So if you go on over to index.html, you'll see there's a div called post, and it's a class, so it's not an ID. So there's one div called post, then there's another div called post. So the first div is a post, the second div is a post, and the third one. So that means that from date till the end of this blog post is one post, right? So we're going to try and style that as one unit, and so that'll allow us to separate, that'll allow us to replicate our styling for each post. So if we style one post and we give the same class to the rest of the posts, it'll automatically style it for us. Okay, so let's head on over back to Sublime, and we're going to be styling the class post. Okay, so let's style post. So post, and what we're going to do is, let's have a look here. We see that there's a gap here between the edge and this edge. So between this bounds here, there is a gap that's being left. Okay, left alone, so some space. So if you look at ours at the moment, we see that there's the left or the right hand side of each post. So let's fix that first. And in order to fix that, it's very simple. We're going to be adding our margin left. So margin left of, let's say, about 5%. Margin right of about of the same, so it looks a bit even. Okay, so we have that done. So that should give us some space. So let's save. So I just that I made, and I'm gonna refresh the browser up, and look at that. Nice spacing between the, starting to look more and more alike, and it's giving our page a bit of a better presence to it and style, obviously. So the next thing that we need is, let's have a look here. Okay, let's forget about this line and this texture changed and this text. Let's just finish the basic, the container, not the content, right? So we're going to finish the post container first, and then we'll go into the container and do that. So at the end of this container, you see the little line here, a little underline. Now you can use something called an HR. So again, I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm going to demonstrate. So you MDN, press enter. So HR stands for horizontal rule, and basically it's what we want, right? So it does give you a line across the page, but so if you look at it, so if someone says so this is the HTML output. So if they say this is the first paragraph of text, they give this a first paragraph of text, then they say HR, which gives you the line, right? There's that line there, and they say this is the second paragraph, so it continues there. But I'm not going to be using HR, although HR can be used and styled to look very nice. So I'm not going to look for styling now for you, but okay. Here's an example. You see that little line at the bottom there? It's very faint. I'm not sure if it's coming across on the stream, but if you go on to HR's MD and HR at the bottom here, where you see this Facebook div, you'll see a little line there. That's probably an HR that's been styled. So it's been given a little lighter color, and it's probably given a nice alpha gradient to it. So it fades off at the end. But we're not going to be focusing on that. We're going to be using a border just like this, but it's large. Okay, so we're going to make the border a bit thinner, and we're going to change the color, so it's going to have the color a bit lighter. Now, for things that are like this here, where the color is small, you can try and get it, and most of the time you will. So if, as you can see, I hit it there. Just hit it there. I can, okay, so I'm going to use this. I'm going to click back there, and here's the RGB, right? So if you copy that RGB, you'll have the exact same color, so don't stress. So we got that color. So let's do that little line. So we said it's a border, but we didn't say where the border is. So the border is not all around the div. It's actually at the bottom. So it's a bottom border. And let's not make it too large because it's actually quite thin. We'll make it that, and obviously the RGB we just copied from color pick I2, and it's a solid border type. So let's save this now and go back to our page, and Give it a refresh, and there you go. Order at the bottom one. At the bottom one, you can't really see it because it's very close to the bottom border. You can give it a little bottom margin so it looks a bit better, but we're not going to do that at this time because we're trying to replicate the other side, and as you can see, the other side doesn't have it. Okay, so now that we have this, it's styling the div called post. All the classes have the it's aligned nicely and it's given the line. So into this post now, into each post, and obviously if you go into one post and change it, because each has a class post, they'll all change. So let's first style this, the date. So the date, if we head on over to index.html, you see that each date in a post is an h4. So we want to style this h4 inside of every class name post. Every class that every element that has a class post and within that has an h4, we want it to be styled. So to do that in HTML and CSS, it's not very hard. So we said in all posts, in all elements that have the class post, we want to style the h4 that's in there. And what we want to do with the h4 is let's actually have a look at what we want to do with the h4. So let's have a look at this first. We'll see, okay, so it's uppercase. In our one here, this is got lowercase with a capitalized first letter. It has a different font, which you're going to be going into. The color is obviously different, and the size is a bit different as well. This is too small. So let's first make it uppercase and change the color, and then we'll talk about fonts and then font size. Okay, so it's easy to make it uppercase. So we say text transform and uppercase. So let's test that this works first, so that we know that our style tags, our selector is actually correct. So let's go back here and copy it, and oh, look at that. So it did it for all of them. So November, January is also capitalized. So now we're going to move on to color. So I'm not going to keep doing this all the time. I have the colors written down, but I'm just proving to you that you can get the colors from here. So if you look here on this little panel here, it's zoomed in quite a bit. So you don't have to look at the web page when you're moving your mouse. Have a look at the little zoom, and you'll be able to get the exact styling. Right? You may go a little off, but mostly you'll be 100%, if anything. Right? So let's click it, and let's click that, and let's take the RGB. So we're going to just copy that RGB there. Okay, so we have the color. Color is done. So let's change the color, and to change the color of text, it's color obviously, and paste the RGB. Okay, let's save it. Let's go back on and have a look at whether the color is actually going to be the same. And here is, yeah, it's the same as this color. Okay, it's the exact same as this color because we use the color picker. So next we're going to talk about, so the change of fonts is not difficult, so I'm going to show you. So we can head on over to Google, and we're going to type Google fonts, and you're going to choose the option that says fonts.google.com. So Google Fonts, click it, and I'll bring you to this page. And this is a bunch of free fonts that we can use in our web page to style it. Now fonts, custom fonts, this is custom fonts, so we can customize these fonts. But fonts these are custom fonts that are free to us, but proper custom fonts that companies use can get very expensive. And so we're not going to get into all of that now, because I'm sure most of us are starting off. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting the some of these free fonts that look nice, and we're going to use them, and we're going to try and match them. Now unfortunately, we can't go in and try and have a look at what fonts these are. So if we go into the original page and we right click on an element, so we highlight an element like that, right click and say inspect. If we go here and we look at the CSS, uh, which on there we go, the H1. So we look at the CSS, the H1, and we see, okay, so it's got a word, it's got a height. Oh, here's it here, indie flower. Font family is indie flower. So for this H1 here, the font is indie flower, and here we go, indie flower. So we're gonna grab indie flower, right? So you do this for all of them. So let me go back. Let's say, okay, so what is this exactly? So right click, inspect, and you have a look there for the H4 post, and you'll see, okay, it's Abel. So Abel. Let's head on over to Google Fonts, and we'll do the same. So let's type it here. So Abel. Right, click the plus there. Again, I've done this already, so I know exactly which fonts we need. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you the fonts. I'll type them in here, and then you'll know which fonts they are. But that's how you would do it for web pages that you don't have access to. So if you go on Facebook, I'll show you a typical example. Let's hope that they are using custom. If they're using custom fonts, we won't be able to see it. But okay, you know what? Show this an image. No, let's just try. Okay, you know what? Let's try UKZN. So UKZN, let's say, hey, you know what? I like this font right there. Right click, and I'm gonna inspect the element. And we're gonna look for this, and we don't really know what this is exactly, but this is probably an H2. So if we go here, we see, okay, they all H2s, and the font family is something called Verdania. So now we need to look for Verdania fonts. Now again, if this is a custom font that they have created, their own, we cannot replicate it. We can try and get something close to it, but not exact. Okay, so you could try Google Fonts. There are other fonts out there, but you could try Google Fonts. So let's try and paste this in and see. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong one. Let's try and copy Verdana or Verdania, not sure how you say it, and see if Google Fonts has it. And hey, we look at that, it does have it. So it has Verdana, Verdana Pro, Verdana Ref. So let's choose Verdana because that's what they had. So you click it. It says available from these external foundries. So you'd have to go externally. So it says no matches found in the open source catalog. 3 viewing families from external foundries. So you see, so you'd have to go externally. This is from Microsoft. So you'd have to go to Microsoft and look. They probably have it for free. I'm not sure, but that's how you would acquire these fonts, okay, from other websites. But obviously, for our purposes, we are going to need Abel, Indie Flower, and we're gonna need XO2. Okay, there's XO2 here. Okay. And we're also gonna need my favorite, Ubuntu condensed. Ubuntu condensed. Gonna add it in. So we got 4 families in here. So we got Ubuntu condensed, XO2, Abel, Indie Flower. Right. So once you've added these, what you're gonna do is you're gonna click on the embedded tab. It says embedded fonts. To embed the selected fonts to your web page, copy this code into the head of your HTML document. So it's a link tag. So let's copy the link tag. Copy, and we are gonna paste this link tag code snippet after our link tag to CSS. Right? So paste it right there. So in our HTML, the first thing we added was our link to our CSS page, and the next one was a link to an external reference for our fonts. So once you've done that, it's very simple. Say save, going back into our style, and now we can use the fonts by using the name. That's all, just the name of the font. So in this example, we're styling the H4. So we found out that the H4 had a font family of Abel, right? So Abel. That's simple. Now you can add quotation marks around this, and I do advise that actually, because different fonts with numbers in front of them and numbers after them, and compound names used as font families can cause problems. So if you don't use quotation marks because it doesn't know which one to pick, so just be safe. Put as a quotation mark, you'll be fine. Within quotes or parentheses. That's better actually. Just by the way, this sign here is called a hashtag or a pound symbol or an octothorpe. Hashtag symbols are called octothorpes. Just a by the way kind of thing. Okay, so font size, let's go at 1.5 EM. Now, again, I'm not going to explain what EMs are, what pixels are, etc. The sizes, if you'd like to find out along with while coding along, stop when you're done, make a note, say, I don't know what font size, what's EM, do an MDN font size, and all of this will come out, and it'll explain exactly what it is. Okay. So yeah, so we've finished styling this H4, I believe. So let's save it and have a look at what's happening here. Let's close Google Fonts. Let's refresh. Let's see what's happening. And oh, look at that. Our font has changed. It looks identical to the original. It would look identical because we use the exact font, exact color. Maybe the size would be wrong because we're guessing with the size, but that's fine. It looks about similar. The next step that we're gonna do is try and style this guy. So this here is, let's first inspect what it is. So I'm not gonna do this all the time. I'm just doing it a few times so you understand how to do it. So if this was a web page, so let's say you want to recreate Facebook or something, just the front end, you don't have access to the HTML, you could just right click and say view page source, and this will show you all of the HTML, even if it's Facebook, Google, whatever it is, and you can have a look at what this is. So if I were looking at, let's say I wanted to find out, okay, so what element is this? This is my first article, and I don't have access to the HTML file. I would right click and view source page and look for that. So it's this is my first article. There we go. So it's an H2. So the next thing we are going to style is H2s. Okay, so we're going to style all of these. This is an H2, that's an H2, that's an H2. Let's style the H2s. So let's go here. We're styling all H2s that are in posts. So inside all posts, we are going to style H2s, all the H2s. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is probably change the font family. And again, I've showed you how to find the font family. I've already written it down. It turns out that the H2 is an XO2. So if you got that, well done. It's an XO2. And the font size, this we had to play around with a little bit. But if you play around enough, you'd realize it's probably a 3. It's about 3M, right? Again, I'm not going to explain what 3M is. You can have a look at MDN. I'm not doing this to not explain whatever. It's just trying to get you to understand how to do research as a programmer, and that's how you do it. You'd find a source and trust. You'd read about the source. So I did extensive reading about MDN. I did some stuff about MDN, found out a lot of stuff about MDN, and they are very reliable. And it's something I advise you to do, whether it's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, whether you're doing backend stuff, whether you're doing application stuff like Java, C++, Python, it doesn't matter. Find the docs and understand how to use them. And once you've done that, you know, the sky's the limit. So, okay, let's get back on the topic. So, we've styled the post, the H2s within the post now, and let's check whether we are correct. So we save it and refresh, and look, there we go. So our heading is actually the same. It's styled, it looks the same. So we're getting better, and we're getting towards the end. Somewhat. So what do we have left? Okay, this is a good thing to do, is always take stock of where we've been and what we've done and what we've yet to do. So what we have done, let's go back here. So what have we done rather? We've done the border, a nice big border. Let's go back to ours. Yep, we've done a nice big border. We've done the dates, we've styled the dates. Yeah, we styled all the dates. We've done the H2s, which now look like H1s, but we've styled it to look like we've styled it the H2s. So we come back. Yes, we've done all of them. What do we have to do next? So next we have to do next is this blog post, the actual text. So what I suggest is break this down even further. Sorry, I think what we should do is let's do the actual font, because that's the easiest, right? Let's do the font size and the font family, because we've done that plenty of times and it's a bit easy. So let's head on over to Sublime Text, and we're going to style all inside all posts. We're going to style all paragraphs. And again, remember I showed you how to find out what font family we are using. It turns out, again, we're using Ubuntu condensed. Okay, Ubuntu condensed. Remember, you have to spell that right, and I am atrocious at spelling. If it doesn't work, we always know it's my spelling. So font size, again, play around with it. I chose 25 pixels. Save. Let's go back here to our original one and refresh. And there we go. So it's taking shape. We got the right size. I spelled Ubuntu condensed correctly, and the size is okay, I guess. Next. Oh, okay. So we see that we have this little. Let's leave this for last year. This looks a bit complicated. Let's leave that last. Let's try and do this little guy here. So this looks like a border again, but it's not a border inside the entire paragraph. It's a border to the left of the paragraph. Okay. And it looks like it's only on the first paragraph of the post, right? So let's do this now. This is coming to one of the first complex CSS that we're going to be doing. It's not hard, it's not difficult. Again, MBN whatever I'm doing, and they'll explain it perfectly. So we are going into all posts, looking at a paragraph, but we're looking at nth of type. So nth of type. So this means inside all classes that have post, that are inside all elements that have the class post, we're looking at the first instance of a paragraph. And it turns out that within this post, the first instance of a paragraph is indeed our first paragraph. So let's style that. So in order to style that, we are going to have a border. Remember, we spoke about having a border left. Okay, and so this border isn't very, it's not a very thick border. So let's say it's about 3 pixels. Now time for the color. So I'm not going to do the color again. I'm just going to write it down because I've done this earlier in preparation for this video. RGB 167. And I suggest you actually use the color picker to check this and get used to using it. And solid. Okay, so we've done that. So border left, right color, solid. And so let's save this and see how it looks. Let's head on over there, save, and hey, there we go. There's our border there, but there's a small problem. And the problem is, if we have a look, we see that the text is right up against this border. And if we head on over to the solution, see there's a nice elegant space that's there, which gives it a bit of room and highlights the border a bit more. With this there, it's a bit stuck on. So let's try and alleviate that problem by adding a padding, right? So let's head on over to our Sublime Text, and we're gonna say padding. Now the padding is to the left. It's a very small padding, so let's say it's about 1%. Right, let's try 1%. Let's save. It's coming over here, refresh. There we go. Nice space. It highlights the border, highlights the paragraph. It just looks a bit elegant. And although we've been looking at this one, remember that all of them are divs and they all posts. So we'll be able to see them they'll all be styled, and we can see them now that they all follow in the same style that we made to the first one. And we've been concentrating on the out of the first paragraph. But in the back end, everything else is being styled as well. So let's head on over and look at what we have to do next. So next is we have to change this small letter here. So follow me. First letter of the first paragraph inside all posts need to be a little bigger and probably capitalized. But I think that if we just increase the size, because it's the first letter of a paragraph, it should be capitalized. So that should be fine. So let's head on over to Sublime Text. So this one is a little bit more complicated. But again, let's follow it. So we said in all posts, we're looking for the first paragraph, the int of type the first paragraph, and we're looking for the first letter in the first letter in that paragraph. And what we want to do, we just want to change the font size. We're going to change the font size over to let's say double the size of double the size of the paragraph. So let's say 2M. Right? 2M. So let's save it and refresh. Oh, that's what I want to save and refresh. There we go. See, 100% correct. So we've done the capitalization or the size increase of the first letter, and due to the font, it makes it bold automatically. So that's fine. I think that solves that problem. So hey, look at that. I think we're almost done. So what's left? Let's have a look at what's left. So okay, this thing is sticking out. That's not correct. And also this on the KDP solutions. That's a photo. So let's solve that. Let's quickly do the simple blog front end, put at the bottom. So to style the H1, which we figured out a long time ago as H1, you need to give it a width. Now the width. So remember at the beginning, we gave the main div a width of 80. So this is a width of 80, right? So if I go here and I say, let me highlight this here first and inspect, we see that this, let me just give me a second. Move it down there. There we go. We see that the H1 is taking up 100% of the screen. So I wish I could move my mouse and point at the same time, but this H1 here is taking up this entire thing there. Can you see that? So let's go back here, highlight it. Can you see? That's not what we want. We want it to take up what the main div is taking up. And don't look at the, so we're looking at this part here. The main div is taking up that part there. Right, so it's 80%. So let's make the, first of all, this H1 take up about 80% and see how far we get. Okay, so let's head on over here and make the width 80%. Let's save and have a look if that makes things a bit better. Okay, remember you're not going to see the difference as in the text being moved yet. You're only going to see the difference if we inspect it. And you can see this blue bar. It used to be, it used to be at the end of the page, so it was entire width. Now it moved in a little bit because we said make it 80%. So I guess the best way to make this visible is actually to center this H1. Okay, so let's center the H1 real quick. Remember to center, margin right auto and margin left auto. Okay, let's save this now. Let's save this, and there we go. So it moved into place. And if we just inspect this one more time, we see the blue bar is almost exactly the width of the border that's there. Okay, so we want to adjust this now, play around with the figures so that we get closer and closer to this figure. So let's go in here into the Chrome's debugging tool. I'm going to show you Chrome's debugging tool. So we're on the H1. Okay, we've highlighted it. we can see that the blue box is not exactly lining up on either end with our actual main div. So let's go here, and you'll see it says width is 80%. So if we change this, now remember that this doesn't save your file. Okay, it's just a quick debugger, so you can actually see what's happening. So if we change it to, let's say, 81%, right? If we change 81, highlight this, you can see it's actually getting a bit closer, but not close enough, right? So let's change it back to let's say 81.5. 81.5, right? 81.5. Highlight the div, and you know what? That's exactly perfect. So if you look here, that this line there, that outer line, so from here to there is exactly the same. So we're fine. So we know we need to make the width 81.5. But for people who think that you can make changes here, not naming names, if we refresh, look what happens. It goes back. That's because it's not saving. This is a debugging tool allowing you to debug and to make fixes to stuff. So let's head on over, and now we know we need to make this 81.5. Okay, next is obviously the family. Now we realized right at the beginning that the font family is in fact indie flower. Font family is indie flower, and the footer. Now we're gonna okay. Let me just save and demonstrate. So save and refresh, and hey, look at that. It's getting to a point that we don't know which is the correct and which is the one that we've been doing now live. But the biggest giveaway is the URL. So if you look at the URL for the desired result, you'd see it's an actual web page, so KDP solutions /CSS /simple blog front end, whereas our one is called user KTP so desktop my simple blog. Now, if you're wondering what, just as a side note, the %20 means space, just a single space. That's what it means. Okay, so yeah, on about that. The last thing we have to do is this footer. So let's get on and finish that. So if you have a look here at the correct one, the correct version, see we've got a nice small box there, which is probably a div, and then it's got the text in there, right? So let's do that real quick. That's not a very tough one to do. So the first thing that you want to do is obviously you want to give it the footer, right? And the width needs to be 81. Right, I'm not going to explain why. We've just explained that just now. So we're going to center the footer, margin right auto, margin left auto. Okay, and then we're going to give it a background color. Now again, I've done the background. I've done how to get colors using the tool, and as it turns out, it's 167, 179, 198. Right, those are the colors. Finally, okay, let's save this and have a look at our progress. Let's go back here and refresh, and oh, look at that, we got it to be in line. The only problem is this text, and we know how to, well, centering text is not difficult, and we just maybe change the size of this a little bit. So let's say inside the footer, find a paragraph, because if we have a look here, and we scroll right down, because probably the footer is probably the last thing, you see, yeah, there's the footer, we style the footer, but inside the footer there's a paragraph, and we want to center this paragraph. So let's center this paragraph. So we're gonna first, let's change the size. Let's make the size a little bit bigger. Let's change it to about, say, 15 pixels. Righto. And then let's say the text. Now to center the paragraph, say text align equals, and just like Chrome, I mean just like Microsoft Word, if you want to align something centered, you say text align center. And if we say file, save, Come on over here. We see that it's not centered. Click it, entered. That is our entire website completely solved. So I just want to show you once again where you've come, how far you've come. So I click here, say view page source, copy all of this. Okay, copy it. Head on over to your desktop. So we can close that. Head on over to the desktop, say new text, double click it, paste in all that code that you just had, say file, save as, and let's say old html.html, and save it, right? And you can delete that temporary one that we had there. So old HTML, right click, open with Google Chrome. So we started off with this, and in a matter of we ended with this. Okay, just using CSS styling. So it's not complicated, it's not hard. My advice is use MDN as much as you can. Try and do as many projects. Okay, projects are building, creating fake websites is always the best way to learn. So for example, what I've been working on recently is something called Image Garage. Okay, so Image Garage is a place where people can comment and share photos. So this was styled using CSS. And again, if you right click and go inspect, not inspect, sorry. If you right click and say view page source, this is all the HTML that I've written for this web page. See, that's all. And the rest of it is done using some styling. Okay, so I've styled all of this. So like the navigation bar that stays there. And if you look at this, if I resize it, if I resize the page, it becomes mobile format. So I have a little drop down, etc. So if you go to this link, you click on fork me on GitHub, and you can fork this project right there, and you'll have your own repository, and you can make changes to it. So as I said, remember we talked about convention, and so we have CSS there, and all the CSS that's required is there, and the index.html is here, the JavaScript is here. So feel free to fork this project on GitHub, and yeah, enjoy it, make it your own, and contribute if you can, if you will. And as you learn, so GitHub is a great place to learn, to build your portfolio. So using GitHub, it's actually something that's quite mandatory as you go up. So Image Garage has got its own repo, which you can fork, of course. I do have my code repo. So this is where I write most of my code, etc. So this has got quite a bit of code in it. So Android projects, Java projects, C++ projects, web development. So if you see my web development, it's 21 hours. I've got the simple front end that I've created, the simple blog photo front end. So you can do this as well. So this one here is where we've done posts previously in text. Now this uses photos, so it's not that big of a deal. So you can head on over here and have a look at the code, etc. And yeah, so that's about it. I think we're done. We'll do more explanations of this tomorrow, but I'd like to see your finished project. Obviously, now that you have the solution, you should be you should some of the issues that you were having, but hopefully this shows you how you can go from having a plain HTML text and move to a nice CSS page in about an hour. And yeah, as you develop, you learn stuff that will enable you to make you beautiful websites in matter of minutes. So thank you, and I think we're done.